Dear students, welcome to the MOOC on India's foreign policy in a globalizing world. In this lesson, we learn about India's engagement with the US in the globalized world. Main objectives of this lesson is to understand the role of India and the US in the international system, to know the security partnership between the two countries, to learn the convergence of interest between the two countries. We begin with the first part of the lesson, in which we will discuss about India and United States global strategic partnership. India-US relations have developed into a global strategic partnership based on shared democratic values and increasing convergence of interest on bilateral, regional and global issues. The Government of India's emphasis on development and good governance have created opportunity to reinvigorate bilateral ties and enhance cooperation under the motto Chale Saath Saath, Forward Together We Go, and Sanjay Prayas Sabka Vikas, adopted during the first two summits of Prime Minister Modi and President Obama in September 2014 and January 2015 respectively. The summit-level joint statement issued in June 2016 called the India-US relationship on enduring global partners in the 21st century. A regular exchange of high-level political visits have provided sustained momentum to bilateral cooperation, while the wide-ranging and expanding dialogue architecture has established a long-term framework for India-US engagement. Today, the India-US bilateral cooperation is broad-based and multi-sectoral, covering trade and investment, defense and security, education, science and technology, cyber security, high technology, civil nuclear energy, space technology and applications, clean energy, environment, agriculture and health. People-to-people interaction and support across the political spectrum among both countries nurture bilateral relationships. The US and India are the two largest democracies in the world. They respect each other's values and share the ideas and healthy aspects of friendly relations. Despite this, relations between the two had been strained for various reasons during the Cold War period. The situation had been mainly attributed to persisting differences and misperception about each other and had not changed for the better, despite the fact that the two countries are wedded to the principle of democracy. The real politic world that dominated their actions was during the Cold War. India's policy of non-alignment had clashed with the interest of the United States. During the Cold War period, the US thrust was to counter communism, whereas India's concern was to fight against colonialism and imperialism. The US tried to persuade India to enter into a military alliance. While it is difficult to say that in the post-Cold War period the importance of Pakistan diminished in the American global strategy, it is certainly not a dominant factor in its relation with India. The US cannot anymore ignore India or contain it. India now has the means to cope with the fast changing global scenario. It is much more pragmatic in focusing on its national interest and readjusting its relationship with America. The end of the Cold War and the growing impact of globalization are helping India to redefine its position and role both at the regional and global levels. India's global presence has been steadily visible, and its role in the world makes it difficult for others to ignore it. The collapse of Soviet Union made India to reorient its foreign policy. As C. Raja Mohan maintains, I quote, "Fundamental changes in foreign policy take place only when there is a revolutionary change either at home or in the world." End quote. According to him, there were 5 changes in India's foreign policy that followed. India made a transition from the collective national consensus on building a socialist society to a consensus on building a modern capitalist one. It also moved from the past emphasis on politics to a new stress on economics in the making of foreign policy. It shifted from third worldism to the promotion of its own self-interest. It rejected the anti-Western mode of thinking. Finally, India made a transition from idealism to pragmatism. India's nuclear test in 1998 and its steady economic performance have changed not only India's perception of itself, but the world's, particularly the United States' perception of India. It marked India's assertion as a nuclear power and contributed to changing perceptions of its capabilities and responsibilities. On the economic front, India's performance in infrastructure, growth in the IT sector and manufacturing sector have changed the Indian economy to a great extent. India recognizes the importance of America, which is dominant in global politics. India can work along with the US to achieve its larger interest. There is a strong convergence of issues between India and the United States. India's emergence as a rising power and its potential large market for American industries led the US to strengthen its cooperation with India in various fields. Despite realizing the importance of cooperation between the two countries, they have differences with each other. For instance, India is not comfortable with the US the way the former is maintaining cordial relations with Pakistan and China, while the US is apparently not happy with India with the way New Delhi is trying to have engagement at a multilateral level such as BRICS. Indian policy makers have tried to enhance Indian interests in 4 geostrategic contexts that matter the most to New Delhi. First, India has formed a strategic partnership with the US to give greater emphasis on important international, political, economic and security issues. Second, New Delhi has accelerated the process initiated in 2003 to promote political cooperation with Beijing, thereby allowing the two Asian giants to collaborate for mutual economic gain and ensure that their long-standing border disputes and expanding international competition for energy resources and trading markets remain demilitarized. Third, India has extended its presence in the Indian Ocean region. Further, fourth, India has reoriented its policy towards its neighbors in South Asia and the broader Indian Ocean region. This involves strengthening regional stability, economic connectivity and diplomatic ties. I hope you understood about India and the United States global strategic partnership. We will discuss about India and the US stance on terrorism, internal security, concern over rising China and their strategic partnership in the next video. Thank you.